Donald Trump's cover-up of the Epstein files is worse than anybody could have imagined. I think even worse than their worst expectations. A criminal cover-up at the highest levels of our government of a child sex trafficking ring. We'll break it down. Also, Donald Trump wants a distraction. He's trying to get the United States into multiple wars, trying to get the U.S. into a war with Venezuela, continuing to seize oil tankers, both sanctioned and unsanctioned oil tankers. You have the Trump regime essentially threatening war with Greenland, appointing a special envoy, the current governor of Louisiana, Jeff Landry, who put out a statement saying that we are going to make Greenland ours. A reminder, Greenland is part of the Kingdom of Denmark, a NATO ally. Denmark and Greenland, the prime ministers of both locations issued a powerful response. We'll talk about what's going down there. And you see our former allies kind of a World War III war footing as a result of Donald Trump's behavior. You have this deranged GOP Turning Point USA event in Phoenix where all these GOP influencers were attacking each other. It also looked, in my opinion, like a white supremacist rally at times. You had J.D. Vance saying that now white people are not afraid to say they're white anymore. And then you had a bizarre special guest appearance by Nicki Minaj, who referred to J.D. Vance as an assassin to Erica Kirk. And then she went on to threaten the life, in my opinion, that's what it looked like, of California Governor Gavin Newsom at this event. We'll break that down. And then you have Donald Trump slapping his name on just about everything unlawfully, from putting his name on the Kennedy Center to putting his name on the Institute of Peace to putting banners of himself everywhere on buildings in Washington, D.C. Earlier today, they announced a new class of Navy vessels referred to as the Trump class. Well, Americans just want affordable housing, affordable groceries, an economy that works for most Americans and not the billionaires. We'll break it all down here on the MeidasTouch Podcast. It's great to be with everybody right before Christmas. If we don't check in with you before Christmas, but don't worry, we're going to be doing videos every day. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa. And it's been a great time to be with all of you in solidarity and standing up to this regime. Brett, Jordy.
Happy holidays, everybody. It's great to be here. Ben and Jordy, it's great to be here. Meidas, Mighty. I know we got a whole lot to discuss today. I think the thing that I'm just most, I don't know if I should be surprised or shouldn't be surprised about this, but the cover-up has just been so sloppy in regards to the Epstein thing. And, you know, if they thought that releasing the files in the way that they did, by withholding so much, by redacting so much, by being so selective in their releases, by taking things off once they discovered that Donald Trump's face was in a photo, all the things that they are doing is actually making this whole situation look way, way, way worse. It's actually causing people to ask even more questions than they had before this first dump of documents. I just cannot believe, maybe I should, I just really can't believe how bad they are at this cover-up. But we're lucky that they're bad at the cover-up, and we've been catching them every step of the way. We're going to go through that. I know we got a lot to discuss, so I'm going to toss it to Jordy. Jordy, what's the latest?
What's up, brothers? What's up, Meidas Mighty? I'm excited for tonight's show. With that, Benji, where are we starting off tonight, big bro?
I mean, look, when we talk about this cover-up, I don't want to center this away from these survivors, right? Because they've been re-victimized by this. They've been psychologically tortured. These are people who have experienced the unthinkable, who have PTSD, who are being traumatized over and over again by this behavior. Now, whatever comes next, this process has been irreversibly tainted. There's nothing that you can trust that comes out of this. And I know we all knew that the Trump regime was not going to comply with the Epstein Transparency Act when all of the files were due on Friday. That's what the law said. There was an ambiguity. The law didn't say the first phase starts on December 19th, or you can do rolling productions. It said all of the files must be made public with the exception of limited redactions of the victims' names, the survivors' names, the victim and the survivors' faces. That's it. Everything else comes out. There's no ambiguity. There's no confusion. So early on Friday, you had Donald Trump's former criminal defense lawyer, who's now the number 2 at the DOJ, Todd Blanche. It should be noted, all of the top Justice Department officials, Pam Bondi, all these people were Donald Trump's former lawyers. They're out there protecting him. But Todd Blanche says, well, we're going to start our first phase, our rolling production. No. You have to turn everything over. We know back in March from the FOIA requests that were made by Jason Leopold at Bloomberg and others, there were over 1,000 FBI agents and DOJ officials back in March. What were the overtime hours? Over 14,000 overtime hours or some really large number like that. And throughout this period of time, the amount of people who were placed from the National Security Division of the DOJ and FBI to review these files it's been a massive amount of time. And look, to give you some of my personal background and experience, I've been in cases that have involved more documents than are in the Epstein files, where there were terabytes of productions. I was in a $1 billion Ponzi scheme case where I was the prosecuting attorney, and there were enough documents and videos and witness statements that could fill 380-story skyscrapers. That's how it was described to me by our e-discovery vendor, our electronic discovery vendor. If you just put the documents from the floor to the ceiling, what you would do, and this was before AI and all these other tools to help you go through the documents and videos, but I assigned 4 or 5 associates for about a month and a half, 2 months. That's all they did. They went through everything. Occasionally they used, before AI and before all these tools, they just used like keyword searches to try to prioritize things. So you would try to look that way and maybe prioritize your search. But then you would be able to produce all of these things and have everything ready to go by, a month and a half. And you would use these electronic discovery tools to load the documents, and you would work with opposing counsel to do it. Like this is not actually all that of a complicated task. And you would do attorney-client privilege redactions and all the other redactions that I would do. So this is a manageable task. I'm thinking to myself, imagine if I had the equivalent of one of these massive law firms, right? 1,000 lawyers or whatever it is at my disposal to go through these documents. I mean, it probably could have been done in a week. I just want to give you that perspective that I have, having litigated cases with massive amounts of documents. I'll give you this perspective as well, because I think it's helpful that we move the needle forward and give you interesting perspectives that you're not hearing anywhere else. I've been on the receiving end of document dumps where a party has tried to cover up their malfeasance when a judge has ordered them to produce documents by a certain date. But they've at least done it in a semi-sophisticated way. They would show you some documents, but they wouldn't have all of them. So you would be like, oh, they must be producing something because it has this on it. Why would they show that if they're covering up that? But then ultimately you would send out third-party subpoenas. If this was this Trump situation, you would, to the Epstein estate, and you would, say to these third parties, wait a minute, I'm getting documents from the third parties that I didn't see in this production, so maybe I'm not getting all of the documents. And then sometimes you would ask the judge to appoint a discovery referee to jump in and help show you if, in fact, the other side wasn't turning over the documents that they were required to. So what the Trump DOJ is doing, it wasn't even like a sophisticated cover-up, right? They didn't even produce documents that we know they have, which were those Epstein estate documents that were turned over to the Democrats in the House Oversight Committee. Like, they didn't even produce those ones, and we know that's in their possession, custody, and control because we all have them. So clearly it's in their possession, custody, and control. So it was just an FU to the American people saying, we don't care that this is the law. We don't care that there is a deadline here. Screw you. And look, from the American people's perspective, that's bad. But where I started was this is re-victimizing the survivors. And none of us should be okay with that. So anyway, Donald Trump held a press conference to talk about the Trump naval ships. That's what he's calling them now. The Trump naval ships. By the way, how much are all of you looking forward when this regime is over and the next president changes all these names and tears down the ballroom. And it's going to feel like when Saddam Hussein was with the statues coming down. I think about that day, and I know you think about that day as well. So anyway, the purpose of this press conference ostensibly was to talk about the Trump ships. That's what he's calling. And Trump's like, I designed them with my own aesthetic. Okay, well, that's pretty, that's not a good thing if you're the one designing Navy ships. And that's, by the way, one of the reasons authoritarians often fall from power and are defeated is because they think that they alone can fix it. And they push away people with expertise, knowledge, and intelligence, and people who care about the truth and science, because authoritarians shun that. So, we'll see if it's Trump's aesthetic, what that actually means for the ships. But at this presser, Donald Trump was asked about the Epstein files and the release and the cover-up. So one question that seems to be a planted question, which Trump botched, was a question about former President Bill Clinton. So the question was like, so there's all of these photos of Bill Clinton. What do you make of that? Now, in this Trump production, Trump considered all of the men who were perpetrators, who were implicated, who were mentioned, as though they were the victims in the files, so that the victims were not the actual victims and survivors, but it was the men who were mentioned. Remember when MAGA Mike Johnson was saying, oh, what we're really worried about here and why he at first did not support the discharge petition is he said it would create a whole new class of victims, referring to the men who were involved, referring to the perpetrator. Well, that was how the Justice Department went about a lot of these redactions, by treating that group of people, except for Bill Clinton. And these photos of Bill Clinton were produced kind of without context. And they were like photos of Bill Clinton, Diana Ross, Michael Jackson, and children. And the children's faces were redacted, and it turns out like they were like Diana Ross's children, right? There was another photo of Bill Clinton in a pool, and someone's face was redacted. And it turns out that it was in a called the Emperor Suite in Brunei at a hotel, and that the person's face was redacted wasn't a victim. It seemed that the person's face who was redacted was someone who was actually a co-conspirator of Epstein. And the implication was that, this was a victim and they were in this pool together naked, but they were like wearing bathing suits. So they put out all these Clinton photos. Let me be very clear where I stand. I'm not defending former President Bill Clinton if he's in these files doing anything wrong or incorrect or engaging in criminality in any way. Release all the files. No one, regardless of your political affiliation, get the files out there. It's just that simple. That's how we should all feel about it, right? And by the way, earlier today, former President Bill Clinton, and I'm glad he finally did this, put out a statement saying release all the files. And I think he should have done that a long time ago. And he said, look, and it was through a spokesperson of former President Clinton. He's like, look, it's obvious you're selectively leaking photos of me. Release everything. Anything that I mentioned in anything at all, just release it. Stop the selective dropping of things. The law said release it, and you're not doing it. I'm glad that Bill Clinton finally, did that. Anyway, so Trump was asked about it. And so just listen to Trump's response, because Trump's like, I like Bill Clinton. He's a good guy. I think he's a really good guy. I feel bad for him. He's a bud of mine. He's a really good guy. And when you hear this, I want you to me, this just shows you what a fraud and a con Donald Trump is. He's your friend. He's a good guy. You're upset that he's in these photos. You put them in. But that's what a sociopath does. And if you know sociopaths in your life, you recognize this behavior. Trump's just a nuclear sociopath. Let's play this clip.
Thank you, Mr. President. Were you surprised by the number of photos of Bill Clinton in the Epstein files? And can you commit to their full...
What?
And were you surprised by the number of photos of Bill Clinton in the Epstein files? And can you commit to their full release by the end of the year? Some of the victims were protesting that too many of them were redacted.
I know there are a lot of people that are angry about all of the pictures of other people, but I think it's terrible. Look, I like Bill Clinton. I've always gotten along with Bill Clinton. I've been nice to him. He's been nice to me. We've always gotten along. Respect him. I hate to see photos come out of him, but this is what the Democrats, mostly Democrats, and a couple of bad Republicans are asking for. So they're giving their photos of me, too. Everybody was friendly with this guy. either friendly or not friendly, but he was around. He was all over Palm Beach and other.
Let me bring in Brett and Jordy right there. That's a sociopath right there. That is deranged behavior right there. And it also speaks to the fact that this regime thinks you're stupid. Like, they truly think that you're not just stupid, you watching and you listening. They think you are as stupid can be, that he can say something like that and that they expect you to have the MAGA mush brain to go, well, I guess so. No, I guess that ends it. Okay, that makes they're close. They're buds. he feels bad for Bill. Brett.
It's utterly bizarre, Ben. And I think it's interesting that that's what he decides to say the day that we see former President Bill Clinton turn the tables on Donald Trump and actually challenge him to release the full files and say, listen, man, I've got nothing to hide. Release all the files. Stop the selective releases of me. Release any pictures you have of me. Put them out there. Any documents you have of me. Put them out there. I'm not afraid. Are you afraid? Let's do it. That's what the law says. And then all of a sudden, Donald Trump's like, oh, Bill Clinton's a good guy. Yeah, really good guy. I like that guy. I like that guy a whole lot. Something that you did not hear Donald Trump say in that speech was, yes, let's just release all the files right now. Bill Clinton is right. Let's get all the files. Let's get them out there. I think it's very telling, honestly, when you hear someone like Bill Clinton say, release everything, I'm not afraid. When you see somebody like a Reid Hoffman go out there and say, release everything, I'm not afraid. And then you see Donald Trump and he goes, nope. Don't do it. Please don't do it. I think it's just very telling. And I know there's a frustration out there amongst people because they are treating all of us like we are stupid with the release of these files. And the way they are doing it is meant to obstruct the process and obstruct the law. But, I always think, as frustrated as I am, I go back to, what Ben was saying in the beginning of this episode. Imagine how frustrated and just depressed and how hurt the survivors are. And imagine going way, way, way back decades to as early as around like 1996 or so, people who have been victimized by this man, trying to get answers, trying to get responses from various FBIs with various reports, and hitting these same brick walls every single step of the way. Like, what we are all experiencing right now is a mere fraction of what their survivors have had to endure over the past few decades. And I think it's important that we all keep that in mind.
Well said, B. And when Trump was, talking about his great relationship with Bill Clinton over there, I couldn't help but wonder if he was going to refer to him as his Bubba. But that one never came out during that clip. Anyway, on a more serious note, to your point there, Brett and Ben, it's the gaslighting for me. It's like when Donald Trump is even fielding these questions from reporters, for our audio listeners, there's almost a look of bewilderment, shock on Donald Trump's face as he's getting asked the questions about Epstein. Like, he can't even fathom that you people out there, that you guys still want to understand what's going on with those files. Like, Trump is a serial gaslighter on top of being a sociopath. And Ben, you said it perfectly. It's because he thinks you're dumb. It's because he thinks whatever trick he's trying to play on the American people isn't just going to work, that it's already worked. And I think that's just continuing to infuriate the American people more and more, especially when you bring it back to, oh no, there are real people behind these files. There are real victims here. And now they have to relive this in this utterly sociopathic way that Donald Trump is forcing down the American people. It's crazy to see in real time, Ben.
Well, look, from Trump's perspective, and I'm not making excuses for him, what I want to show you is that his view is, look at Pam Bondi, look at Todd Blanche, look at MAGA Mike Johnson, look at James Comer, look at Jim Jordan, look at all of the people who Trump surrounds himself with. Look at what Elise Stefanik did. She of course, and said that she's leaving the New York governor's race on Friday and quitting politics altogether. But look at how these people bent and broke and parroted what he says, the delusional stuff, right? And the cognitive dissonance, although it's also cognitive decline and There's a whole other analysis we make of Donald Trump there, and we should be talking about his physical and mental deterioration before our eyes. And yet another cover up going there is, how is it, though, that the majority of Americans don't buy the crap that I'm selling right now when there's this group that does? And why can't I? And he's frustrated that America and the people have stood up to this. And like, no, you're a liar. You're involved in a criminal sex trafficking ring cover up right now. We're not okay with this. We're not stupid. We know what you're doing. We're not MAGA Mike. You know, he's upset that there are people with morals still and ethics and people who care about the truth. And that part about it is very frustrating for him. But Jordy, you mentioned it's kind of like, Donald Trump's out there saying, you still care about this? He literally said that. He goes, this whole thing with Epstein is a way to deflect. You still care about this? Like, I'm surprised people even care. He literally said that. Here, play this clip.
Democrats. He's just being used by the Democrats, because what this whole thing is with Epstein is a way of trying to deflect from the tremendous success that the Republican Party has. Like, for instance, today we're building the biggest ships in the world, most powerful ships in the world, and they're asking me questions about Jeffrey Epstein. I thought that was finished.
So Jordy, he actually says that. I thought that was finished.
I have just never seen in the history of politics, or perhaps anything, seen such an incredible own goal, I guess I will call it. Like, Donald Trump made this such a centerpiece of his campaign. He tried to weaponize the Epstein files to go after all of his political opponents. He basically rose to popularity on the whole idea of QAnon, which was tangentially related to things around the Epstein files. And then all of a sudden he's in power, and now he has to actually produce the documents, and he realizes that he's being caught in his own web of lies, in his own web of deceit, and that he, of course, had a very close relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein, what did he used to call Donald Trump from the New York Times report? Like, my best friend Don, or something like that? Like, they were best friends going back for a very long time. And so when you have Donald Trump out there and he promises to release the Epstein files, and then they put this minimal release after it was like pulling teeth to get them, after a literal law had to be passed in order to force any sort of action. And then they put out this little batch of files, I think like under it's 5% of it, and they're mostly redacted. And then you don't even see the photos of Donald Trump and Epstein that we know exist. And then the one photo that we actually see of them was inside a drawer that they clearly missed. And then they took the photo down for a little bit once people caught wind of it. And then we caught them taking it down. It's like they're not doing anything to help their case here. And that's why just release the files. I don't understand what is so difficult about this. And now we're at a point where it's like the cover-up really is worse than the crime. And if you really truly did not do anything wrong, then you should just be able to explain yourself, right? Just because you're in a photo with somebody doesn't necessarily mean, association does not mean guilt, right? People were asking me, so, why aren't you speaking out about Bill Clinton? I said, I don't like Bill Clinton's association with Jeffrey Epstein one bit. I'll happily speak out about him, but show me, somewhere where it says that he did something wrong. Those are the things that I need to know. I mean, seeing a picture of Bill Clinton in a pool with his shirt, people have shirts off in pools, we need context for a lot of this stuff, and we need people to be able to explain themselves. But Donald Trump's refusal to explain anything, and instead doing the opposite and continuously trying to deflect and say, it's this person, it's that person, that right there, to me, is what makes him seem guiltier and makes this even like darker. The fact that he's covering this whole thing up, I think that is the most troubling part for me.
Exactly. And it's been a series of own goals when you talk about the Epstein file release. Let's start with the beginning of this regime. He invited the MAGA influencers to the White House, gave them binders. They did the whole photo op that they have. Well, people weren't buying that BS. And then come time to release these files, after everyone fought tooth and after the pro-democracy coalition fought tooth and nail to get the release of the files, you had MAGA Mike Johnson trying to kneel the football and just run out the clock on it. Finally, the files do get released, or are set to be released. And what do? They wait the entirety of the allotted time to even release the files. Come the day of the release, they make up this headline saying that we are going to meet the initial deadline of the files and then continue to release more and more. It's a series of own goals because at every turn, they've gaslit the American people with the release of these files. And at every step of the way, folks have been calling them out for their BS because people are genuinely interested in this because, like I said in the beginning, there are real victims. There are real victims and people genuinely want justice, not some sort of fake MAGA justice where Donald Trump could say, oh, I did it and we're great and now it's time to move on. No, folks want real answers when it comes to this. And so the series of own goals that we've seen for MAGA, that is this Trump regime in a nutshell.
Also, Bill Clinton is not the current president of the United States. Bill Clinton was impeached when he was in office on perjury based on his description of oral sex in an investigation that started about a real estate transaction. Bill Clinton's not leading the country. You know, at the end of the day, everything that the Trump regime right now wants to do is, well, Biden this and Obama that, and y'all are in charge. This guy is the leader right now. And if former President Bill Clinton, he's not able to, but if he was running for office again, or, you know, and we had to evaluate their character and their associations, we should, in the context of an election or in the context of their decisions bearing upon our existence and our lives right now. You know, Donald Trump is making a number of reckless and malicious decisions that are affirmatively harming the American people right now. And Donald Trump is out there calling this a hoax. And Donald Trump was the one out there who made the Epstein files like one of his signature issues. That's what he talked about. That's what Kash Patel talked about. That's what Dan Bongino talked about. That's what Pam Bondi, this whole right-wing movement in the U.S. was built on, is that they were the ones who were uncovering the secret child sex trafficking rings out there, and they're the ones who are now covering it up. It's also why it's important that we have an international perspective of these things, because it's actually an attribute of right-wing ultra-nationalistic movements in trying to appeal to the people and divide countries. If you look at how Viktor Orban came into power as well in Hungary, an authoritarian regime there, same playbook. They were the ones who were going to uncover the child sex trafficking ring, and they've been exposed in Budapest in running a child prostitution ring, essentially, out of the child detention centers out there. And there are all these protests taking place in Budapest because their authoritarian regime is also complicit in a cover-up of a child sex trafficking ring. And it is an attribute of these right-wing movements. And it's why it's helpful that we make these connections. And oftentimes they're either the perpetrators or they're the ones aiding and abetting in the cover-ups. It's an interesting point to expand our horizons and recognize that there are these right-wing authoritarian movements using these same talking points. All right, let's take our first quick break of the show. A reminder, hit subscribe. We're on our way to 6 million subscribers right now. When we come back, we've got a lot more to discuss. And I didn't mention at the top, but we should also be discussing basically how CBS is totally dead. CBS is gone and its implications as well. So let's take our first quick break of the show.
Owning a home is amazing until it's not. 1 minute you're sipping coffee, the next you're ankle deep in water from a burst pipe. Repairs don't care about timing, and they definitely don't care about your budget. Regular homeowners insurance usually doesn't cover a lot of the day-to-day wear and tear. Plumbing failures, HVAC breakdowns, electrical issues. You're often on your own for those. That's where HomeServe comes in. It's like a subscription for your home. For as little as $4.99 a month, they've got your back. Repairs hit fast and hard. You could be searching for a contractor in a panic, or you could already be on the phone with HomeServe's 24/7 hotline scheduling a repair. It's super simple. Choose a plan for your needs and budget. And when something on your plan goes wrong, just call their 24/7 hotline to start the repair process. They've helped homeowners like you for over 20 years with a trusted national network of 2,600 local contractors. With 4.5 million customers, a 4.8 out of 5 post-repair rating, and an A+
Better Business Bureau rating. They're the real deal. If I needed this, HomeServe is what I would use. Emergency home repairs can get expensive. Emergency home repairs can get expensive. I wish I had these guys when I found out about my faulty electrical outlets. Trust me, they would have helped a lot. Help protect your home systems and your wallet with HomeServe against covered repairs. Plans start at just $4.99 a month. Go to homeserve.com to find the plan that's right for you. That's homeserve.com. Not available everywhere. Most plans range between $4.99 to $11.99 a month your first year. Terms apply on covered repairs. Now that it's getting cold, my cats have started their daily migration to lying on top of our heating vents, which for some reason makes them unusually hungry. Thankfully, we've got Smalls. This podcast is sponsored by Smalls. Listeners know my cat simply cannot live without Smalls. For a limited time, get 60% off your first order plus free shipping when you head to smalls.com/Meidas. Smalls cat food is protein-packed recipes made with preservative-free ingredients you'd find in your fridge. And it's delivered right to your door. That's why Cats.com named Smalls their best overall cat food. Starting with Smalls is easy. Just share info about your cat's diet, health, and food preferences. Then Smalls puts together a personalized sampler for your cat. No more picking between random brands at the store. Smalls has the right food to satisfy any cat's cravings. My cat Chubbs eats Smalls every day. His favorite flavor is that chicken and turkey. My cat prefers Smalls way more than previous cat food, and I legitimately did a taste test. I put 2 bowls side by side, and they immediately went to Smalls. Since making the switch to Smalls, my cat has had fewer hairballs, a more balanced energy, and a healthier weight, a softer and shinier fur coat, and a less stinky litter box. That's huge. Smalls also has a bunch of amazing treats and snacks you can add to your order. My cat loves the treats that came in the most recent shipment. After switching to Smalls, 88% of cat owners reported overall health improvements. That's a big deal. What are you waiting for? Give your cat the food they deserve. For a limited time, because you are a MeidasTouch Podcast listener, get 60% off your first order plus free shipping when you head to smalls.com/Meidas. One last time, that's 60% off your first order plus free shipping when you head to smalls.com/Meidas.
Let's go. Shout out to our sponsors. Links in description of both the YouTube and the audio. Use the links, use the codes. If there's an exit survey, let them know we sent you. I genuinely love those 2 sponsors, so check them out. Benji, where to next?
So last night, Donald Trump posted that he was appointing a special envoy to Greenland. He said he was appointing Governor Jeff Landry. And before Governor Jeff Landry made a post in response, I did a video saying, oh yeah, that's a threat of war right there. And how'd I know that? Because this is how authoritarians speak. The idea of an envoy for what? The envoy in Trump's mind is the way he's got his envoy in Ukraine, which is to basically hand over Ukraine to Russia. Trump's own mind is he needs an envoy that's basically going to demand that Denmark give the United States Greenland. And the person Trump selected is the governor of Louisiana. And this guy's a maniac. His name is Governor Jeff Landry. This guy's been corrupt his whole life. You know, Louisiana had a lot of great choices to pick in terms of Democrats to be leaders, and they picked the maniac. Louisiana is now, in terms of all of the lists of like best states to live in and health and jobs, it's always usually now towards the bottom across the board. You know, they really launch this MAGA assault on their own citizens. And it's one of these laboratories of autocracy where they show how much suffering can people take, where you throw at them, you know, all of the right-wing talking points and, you know, just hope their partisan views make them never vote Democrat, basically. So Governor Jeff Landry responds to Trump saying that he is the selection of special envoy. And he goes, thank you. It's an honor to serve you in this volunteer position to make Greenland a part of the U.S. This in no way affects my position as governor of Louisiana. Now, it should be clear that that's a statement of war. It's a statement of aggression. I know that media doesn't want to talk about it like that because Trump has, one, very little credibility. So his threatening war isn't viewed as, oh, is that really a war or is that just Trump being Trump? But also the media doesn't want to use this language. The media doesn't want to say what it is. They want to give him cover. We'll talk more about CBS a little bit later in this episode, but they don't talk about it that way. I mean, could you imagine if former President Biden or former President Obama or former President George W. Bush or Clinton made a statement about conquering and taking over Greenland? Do you think that it would at least make the news cycle? Or do you think it would lead the news cycle? Or do you think it would lead the news week? Do you think that there would be camera crews set up in Greenland waiting for the invasion? Don't you think that would happen if another president made statements like that? And when Donald Trump makes it, it's discounted because, one, he lies about everything, but also it's discounted because the prevailing view is, he's not really going to do that. He's not really going to do that. Well, go look at the history of what people were saying about Putin and Ukraine. He's not actually going to launch a full-fledged invasion and try to take over Kyiv. No, that's his view. That's what Putin wants. Putin's quote-unquote special operation to denazify Ukraine, which is the pretext used, a deranged and utter lie to use to invade and take over Ukraine, a sovereign territory. Trump's got his versions of that. Those rare earth elements in Greenland belong to us. We need it for our national security. What's Trump saying about Venezuela? They stole our land. They stole our oil. We need to reclaim it and bring it back. It's the same exact type of language as Putin. It's why, again, as I mentioned before, you draw the parallels between MAGA and Orban's MAGA, hungry MAGA, right? And you have to draw the parallels between Trump's language there and Putin's language there. And you go back to when this regime started. Remember what I was showing you? Marco Rubio's speeches, where he talked about a multipolar international world with Russia, the US, and China. That's how Trump sees things. China controls Asia. Screw Japan, screw Taiwan, screw South Korea. That belongs to China, all of it. Europe belongs to Russia. The Western Hemisphere, Greenland, Central America, Mexico, South America belongs to the US. Xi Jinping, Trump, Putin. That's how Donald Trump, Canada belongs to the US. That's how Trump sees the world. You have to recognize that that's how he sees the world. And if he could invade Canada and take it over without resistance, he would do it. That's what he means by 51st state. He was looking for a pretext to invade Venezuela. He keeps on seizing these tankers, including one recently that was a Panamanian flagged tanker going to China with 2 million barrels of oil that was not on a sanction list. And the Coast Guard just took it. Like we just stole their oil. And Trump says, well, it belongs to me now. Trump's trying to provoke the war in Venezuela. And just think about this language that's being used here. And so the Prime Minister, Mette Frederiksen, and the Premier of Greenland, Jens Frederik Nielsen, they issue a joint statement saying the following: national borders and state sovereignty are deeply rooted in international law. These are fundamental principles. No one cannot annex other countries, not even by invoking arguments of international security. Greenland belongs to the Greenlandic people. We expect respect for our shared territorial integrity. No one must be allowed to change the national borders by force, neither politically nor militarily. So, there you have that. And I'll show you what Donald Trump said at this press conference earlier about Greenland. Listen to what he said. Let's play that clip of what Trump said about Greenland.
But he felt very strongly we need Greenland for national security, not for minerals. We have so many sites for minerals and oil and everything. We have more oil than any other country in the world. We need Greenland for national security. And if you take a look at Greenland, you look up and down the coast, you have Russian and Chinese ships all over the place. We need it for national security. We have to have it. And he wanted to lead the charge, so we're making him, Marco, today, a special envoy to Greenland. Greenland's a big deal. Yeah.
Brett and Jordy.
It's the way authoritarians speak. And while our media might not take that super seriously, you know that the countries themselves are taking that seriously. You know that Greenland is taking it seriously and Denmark is taking it seriously. And when he says similar things about 51st state with Canada, you know the Canadians are taking that seriously. You know when he threatens Mexico, saying that he's going to bomb inside Mexican territory to get at the cartels, you know that Mexico is taking that seriously. And you could tell because he's also using the same sort of tactics that he's using right now in Venezuela, that he's using with all these other countries that are supposedly our allies, or supposed to be our allies. But you see the same exact lies as Ben was going at, before about Venezuela, where, in Venezuela, he's saying all this stuff belongs to us and Venezuela took all the stuff to us, so it's our right to get it back. That is no different than, as Ben said, what Vladimir Putin did in the lead up to Ukraine. And Ben, I so remember all the people back then saying that former President Joe Biden was trying to rile people up, that he was being alarmist, that Russia would never do such a thing. But at the time who did not buy that? The Ukrainians, who were ready for it. They understood the intelligence and realized that they had to be prepared. Now, I think that's what all these countries unfortunately have to do, because you're dealing with an unhinged sociopath, psychopath, and I mean that in the literal meaning of those terms. He's someone who's very erratic and a bunch of yes men around him who refuse to say no to even his worst instincts. And so you're dealing with a madman. He's got all the power in the world right now. He's got access to nuclear weapons. He's got access to the United States military. And he clearly is okay with using it for means that, even if it borders on or is completely illegal. And so we're just watching this play out day in and day out. And, I think you also have to look at all this also in the context of course, the release of the Epstein files and people's demand to get more and things like that. I mean, there's a reason why he starts going back to the threats against Greenland now, right? As people are furious at the so-called release of the Epstein files. I think he goes back into his bag of old tricks, and he'll do it. Honestly, this is a guy who will start a war in order to try to get people's attention off of Epstein. Like I have no doubt in my mind that he is sick enough to do that.
No, it's a great point. And it's why I say often we need adults in the room. We need adults in these positions of leadership here, because what Donald Trump is doing, he's just making us look weak. First and foremost, like as an American, it pains me to see this from our quote unquote leader, because at the end of it, I don't understand what this accomplishes. Like when he just talks like such a maniac like this, and when he puts this stuff out there and attacks these countries, for me, it's just like, why? And Brett, to your point, exactly, it's to distract. It's trying to obviously, in this case, it seems like to distract from the Epstein files and the release of those. And so Trump could continue to get more questions about this particular subject matter. And I hate it. I just hate it. I know we all do. I know that's the obvious thing to say here. But again, I am worried about what this man is going to do for future generations of this country. We all have kids here on the podcast, not just for our kids, but for everybody's kids. Like, it's going to be very hard for our current allies or folks who at least used to think they were our allies to have that same perception of us going forward. It's going to be a hard stench to wash off of us, even if we are hopefully able to get back into a more pro-democracy area of this country. Man, Benji, what's your take on that? Where do you see this playing out? Where do you see us like in the future?
Well, here's the thing now. Every country is now making long-term plans to move away from the U.S., like long-term. Exactly. Because even if you brought in a pro-democracy administration, right? I think every country, that was formerly allied with us is going to say, yeah, that's great. And we like you. But we know that in 4 to 8 years, y'all are capable of bringing in somebody like Trump. And so we've trusted you implicitly since World War II to be the leader of the free world. And we don't trust you anymore. Forever. I think a future president will, who's pro-democracy, can make repairs. And I think they will. I think they'll physically rip down a lot of this Trump name stuff and nonsense. I think they'll, make a Herculean effort they're going to be running on this as a platform, right? To restore federal government back to competency, bring in like the people from the CDC and everyone who was fired. And I think there's going to be a real thirst for the generals and the leaders and the scientists to want to come back as patriotism, right? And to help. It's never, I'm being blunt and I'm not trying to be nihilistic. I think it's just truthful, right? It is an irreparable breach that the United States has engaged in with anybody. And sure, you may bring in a new person, but the world's going to say, yeah, we get that. But in 4 years, 8 years, 12 years, you're capable of bringing back a Trump because you brought this guy back after you knew everything about him. Another point I want to make, though, I think it's an important one. With Trump making more aggressive threats against Greenland, right? Who was hanging out with Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff this weekend? Like, who was there in Miami? The Russians. Right? You had Kirill Dmitriev and Ushkov and all of the top Russians were in Palm Beach while Donald Trump was in Miami. You don't think they were on the phone together? You don't think Trump and the Russians were speaking, back channeling? Then I've got something to sell you, okay? Even if they weren't, Kushner and Witkoff were delivering messages. You don't think that Putin knows that one of the ways to endear himself to Donald Trump is to talk about, look, we've got our area, Europe's ours. We're going to give you Greenland. We're going to give you that's for you. And Xi Jinping has aid. You don't think that was taking place? Then again, let's talk about what really goes on behind the scenes in these conversations. I mean, look, this was a post from yesterday from Witkoff. Over the last 2 days in Florida, the Russian special envoy, there's that word, special envoy, right? Don't you think that, where's my special envoy to Greenland? You don't think that's how he thinks? I've got such a psychological profile. I'm telling you, that's how the guy thinks. Over the last 2 days, the Russian special envoy, Kirill Dmitriev, held productive and constructive meetings with the American delegation to advance Trump's peace plan on Ukraine. The American delegation included special envoy Witkoff, Kushner, and White House staff member Josh Grunbaum. Russia remains fully committed to achieving peace in Ukraine. Russia highly values the efforts and support of the United States to resolve the Ukrainian conflict and reestablish global security. Just think about that dystopian paragraph right there. First off, the Ukrainian conflict. You mean Russia's invasion of Ukraine? Reestablish global security. You mean the ones that Russia breached by invading Ukraine? Russia remains committed to achieve peace. At all times, Ukraine has agreed to a ceasefire. Russia's the one who doesn't. We played for you the clips of Putin, of Lavrov, of Dmitriev, of Yushkov, of the Russian ambassadors to various countries like UK. They're the ones saying that they need all of Donbass and all of eastern Ukraine, areas that they have not conquered militarily, that they need to finish their quote-unquote special operation of denazification. That's what they keep on saying. They also refer to the European leaders as pigs. And Lavrov has said we're currently in World War III right now. That's what Sergei Lavrov, basically the number 2 in Russia, is saying. So this is nonsense. But this, to me, with those other factors, explains the Greenland statements that are coming out. Yeah. This is how it perfectly. This is exactly how Trump sees the world. Brett, I want to get your take on it. We got to go to break. But when we come back, I want to get your perspective on that. Let's talk CBS. Let's talk this deranged Turning Points USA event. A reminder, hit subscribe. We're on our way to 6 million subscribers. Let's try to hit it this month. Also, check out MeidasPlus.com. That's our Substack. That's one of the ways we've grown. And when you see what CBS is doing, that MeidasPlus.com Substack, it's more important than ever. Let's take our last quick break of the show.
Christmas parties, holiday dinners, late night gift wrapping with a glass of eggnog. It's the season for celebration. Just don't forget the ZBiotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink. ZBiotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's a buildup of this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for rough days after drinking. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night, drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Look, I won't lie, I was a little bit on the fence about giving pre-alcohol a try initially, but then while hanging out with some friends over at a wedding, I gave it a shot, and believe me, it's the real deal. Make the most of every toast this holiday season. Just don't forget to bring pre-alcohol along for the ride. Go to zbiotics.com/Meidas to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use Meidas at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with 100% money back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/Meidas and use the code Meidas at checkout for 15% off. True self-reliance starts with taking control of your own health. Armra Colostrum is nature's original solution. Colostrum is packed with over 400 bioactive nutrients that fortify gut health and strengthen immune health to build resilience at the cellular level. Because when you invest in your health, you invest in your ability to show up, think clearly, and stay in control no matter what life throws your way. Today's environment is filled with toxins, processed foods, modern stressors, and immune disruptors. Nourish your microbiome and strengthen your barriers to support your immune health. Armra Colostrum is your secret to feeling strong, vibrant, and confident again. Not seeing results with your current routine? Colostrum is packed with 400 plus bioactive nutrients that work like a blueprint for your body, promoting your cells' natural renewal processes to support skin, hair, gut health, metabolism, immune health, lean muscle, and whole body vitality. Strengthen your gut integrity and support healthy fat metabolism to empower your body with the blueprint to revitalize health from the inside out. We've worked out a special offer for my audience. Receive 30% off your first subscription order. Go to armra.com/Meidas or enter Meidas to get 30% off your first subscription order. That's armra.com/Meidas. Big moments deserve less stress and more confidence. When ED shows up in the bedroom, Hims helps you keep your cool and focus on what matters most, the moment, not the worry. Through Hims, you can access personalized prescription treatment options for ED, like hard mints and Sex RX Plus Climax Control, if prescribed. Hims offers access to ED treatment options ranging from trusted generics that cost 95% less than brand names to hard mints if prescribed. You shouldn't have to go out of your way to feel like yourself. Hims brings expert care straight to you with 100% online access to personalized treatment plans that put your goals first. This isn't one-size-fits-all care that forgets you in the waiting room. It's your health and goals put first, with real medical providers making sure you get what you need to get results. Think of Hims as your digital front door that gets you back to your old self with simple 100% online access to trusted treatments for ED and more, all in one place. To get simple online access to personalized, affordable care for ED, hair loss, weight loss, and more, visit hims.com/Meidas. That's hims.com/Meidas for your free online visit. hims.com/Meidas. Actual price will depend on product and subscription plan. Featured products include compounded drug products, which the FDA does not approve or verify for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. See website for details, restrictions, and important safety information.
Let's go. Shout out to our sponsors. Links in description of the YouTube and the audio. Use the links, use the codes. If there's an exit survey, let them know we sent you real quick. Benji, behind the scenes, folks, Brett and I have been exchanging messages. He got a little bit jealous. This was a Jordy ad sweep episode. I got jealous that last week Brett did all the ads. So let us know, I guess, we're a little competitive.
How dare you?
Let us know who's better at the ads. Benji, where to next?
Why don't we talk briefly about this deranged Republican Turning Point USA event? It's worth highlighting some of it so that our audience is aware, like, what's going on there. A lot of it was like different Republican factions fighting with each other, calling each other conspiracy theorists. You had J.D. Vance there as like trying to basically be what the heir apparent to Charlie Kirk. Just so y'all remember, obviously Turning Point was run by Charlie Kirk. It's now run by his widow, Erica. There was like a lot of Freudian slips or intentional Freudian slips there.
One after the next.
Definitely one after the next. So let me just show you what went down. This one's not a Freudian slip. This was J.D. Vance just being utterly racist and misusing the term Freudian slip. And he's like, yeah, Minneapolis is Mogadishu. Here, play this clip.
And in the meantime, what are the Democrats offering you in the meantime? I got to say, ladies and gentlemen, they are not sending their best. Omar Fateh was Ilhan Omar's candidate for mayor of Mogadishu. What? I mean Minneapolis. Little Freudian slip there.
He's like the most vile creature ever. I'll talk more about him in a moment. Here he says that in the U.S., because of Donald Trump, this is what I think everybody was focused on, right? This is, he says, the big accomplishment of the Trump regime. You don't have to apologize for being white anymore, he says. Here, play this clip.
In the United States of America, you don't have to apologize for being white anymore.
Guy's literally married to an Indian woman named Usha Vance. Like, I just wonder what her family thinks about all of this. And by the way, when JD Vance met her, he was a different human being too, not this personality. Like, you all know the different personalities of JD Vance. He grew up, he said he was gay, thought he was a gay guy. He had 3 different names throughout his life. And then he's like, I'm not gay anymore, right? And then he says that he was this Appalachia working class guy. And he grew up like in the suburbs by Cincinnati. And he was, but this is all thing. I'm an Appalachia poor guy. It's not really accurate. And I'm an anti-Trumper. And throughout all of these periods of times, he like changed his names and changed his identities. And now he went from saying that he was gay and not named JD Vance. Think about that. To now he goes, he's anti-gay. And he's like a white supremacist, like JD Vance. Like that's his, like that's how he behaves. Like that's his new thing, basically.
Yeah, I mean, you that JD Vance speech, he wouldn't have to rewrite it if he was speaking at a Klan rally. I mean, that's essentially what it turned into with him on the stage. And I think it goes to show you, the ways that, remember, these Turning Point USA events, it really is playing to the base of the Republican Party. And it really shows who they are, that JD Vance thinks that this is the person he has to be in order to court these people. And I said this on an episode a few weeks back, at least, that there was this power struggle happening in the Republican Party right now, because I think they really are starting to look beyond Donald Trump right now and try to figure out what does the Republican Party actually look like. And so there is a civil war happening within the Republican Party. And you see people like JD Vance, he thinks the future of the party is in going ultra white nationalist, ultra racist, just be the most despicable, hateful person, try to ride off Donald Trump's coattails in that regard and then take it even further. Then you have some people pushing back against that and saying, no, we should embrace actual conservative ideals. And then there's this whole civil war that's going on between like Ben Shapiro and Megyn Kelly and all these people. I find them all like wholly uninteresting, but I find this dynamic of this infighting that's happening right now in the Republican Party to be interesting and something that is newsworthy. And that's what we're seeing right out there. And like everything JD Vance said, because they don't have any accomplishments that they could be hyping people up on. What have they actually done for people? Nothing. They've not done anything. They've screwed over their own voters, in fact. And so he just has to keep going back to the racism. Just keep going back, keep going back. So there was this clip also where he's talking about Representative Jasmine Crockett, and once again goes back to the racism.
And Jasmine Crockett. Oh, Jasmine Crockett. The record speaks for itself. She wants to be a senator, though her street girl persona is about as real as her nails. But ask.
It's just disgusting. I mean, he clearly just wants to be like a podcaster or something. Go be a right-wing podcaster. Say your evil shit. Stop running the country because you're not good at that. But sorry, Ben, go.
I was going to say, like, look, whatever issues you're going through with your identity, right? Whatever, issues are about his sexuality, whatever he's going through, whatever that is, right? Like, he's morphed like a chameleon into 3 freaking people. And it's like with all of these people, like you could be you, like just go in your private life and be you and just be happy and let other people be happy. Why do all these people who are hiding whatever it is that they're hiding feel that they need to like screw over everybody who just wants to go about living their life, you know? And you know, my neighbor heard me say this. I talked about it in a video earlier today also. And my neighbor said, this really resonated to me, Ben. And I said, yeah, I think it's true. I'm like, sometimes you just have to look at these people and call it out for what it is, evil. Like there are just some evil people among us, evil, bad humans. Why do they do what they do? Because they're evil and they want to see you suffer. You know how you wake up and you're like, what can I do to better this world? I have a limited time to be alive and I want to contribute and help and try to make people smile, right? There are people who just wake up and go, I hate this. I'm evil and I want to hurt people every day. And that's what this Trump regime has collected, like evil, bad people who want to hurt and inflict pain so that whatever suffering that they're going through, others can feel it as well, versus all of us living happy. And I know that doesn't get discussed enough, but I think that is. And by the way, Don Jr. said, we're not even the Republican Party anymore. At the Republican event, he's like, yeah, the Republican Party's dead. It's just MAGA. Do we have Don Jr. saying that? Let's play this clip.
The rhinos. You see the manufactured attacks on JD, myself, my father, anyone who understands that this isn't the Republican Party anymore. It's the America First Party. It's the Make America Great Again Party. And we are not going back.
Then they bring on Nicki Minaj as their guest. Nicki Minaj is speaking with Erica Kirk, whose husband was assassinated, was killed, right? And Nicki Minaj, you know, and this just shows you, how, you know, just these people, like, do they even like listen to what it is that they're saying? So the first thing that Nicki Minaj, Erica Kirk, and this crowd is doing on stage is Nicki Minaj says the following about Governor Newsom. She calls him new scum. And she says, we're going to have to clean up that scum. Tread lightly. Y'all realize she's threatening the life, in my opinion, of a California governor at an event with the wife of someone who was killed. And the crowd is clapping for her threats that, in my opinion, can only be perceived as a threat to the life of the governor of California. You tell me how you perceive it, but play this clip.
Well, Mr. Newsom.
Dear Newscum, we don't have a problem cleaning up the scum if we have to. Please tread lightly. That's what I would say to Gavi Poo.
You know, it's why I say these are actually evil people. Like, it's almost like a parody of the bad guys or the bad gals, you know, in these movies. Like, who even talks like that, right? You're at an event, you're in front of younger people, right? Like, I mean, I teach, I'm a law professor. I speak to young people and undergrads. Like, it would never cross my mind in a group of young people. Dan, no scum, dear scumbag. Tread lightly, you scumbag. You know what we do with people like you, scum? What are you doing? I mean, it's like, who conducts themselves in this way? And then they're so deranged. The language that they use all the time is so violent that they can't even like get through a sentence without being reflective. Like Nicki Minaj then refers to J.D. Vance as the assassin in front of Erica Kirk. And Erica Kirk's like, that's okay. She's a woman of God. She's a woman of God. So it's okay that she says assassin, where my husband would. But let's just watch this.
And you have amazing role models like the assassin J.D. Vance, our vice president. And when I say that,
Trust me, there's nothing new under the sun that I have not heard, so you're fine. Yes, we did. I love You have to laugh about it, truly. I have been called every single thing, and you know what? God is so good, you let it roll right off your back. And this is what's so beautiful about this moment, because if the internet wants to clip it, who cares? I love this woman. She's an amazing woman. She has a soul and a heart for the Lord.
You love this woman? You love this woman? Lord God. That's because that's what they go back to. Lord God, Jesus, guns, Jesus, Lord God, guns, Jesus, Lord God. Don't worry about the deranged stuff that we're doing to you, which to the extent people are religious out there, this would go against anybody's. What do you think? The God and Jesus is for this behavior of taking away people's health care?
And well, Ben, you got to look at though what, why they're invoking God, right? Why they invoke Jesus. All the things that they do here are no different than what televangelists do every single day. The model that they are following for these Turning Point USA events are not political rallies, and they're not political events. It's the model of the megachurch down to the grift. And that is what they are doing as they put these events on. It's where the theatrics come from. It's where the language comes from. It's why they are willing to forgive or empathize with anybody who uses the most horrific language, so long as they are on their side, and attack the other side as demonic, and attack the other side for small differences of opinion every single time. And so the language is deliberate, it is manipulative, and it is specifically designed to invoke this kind of the inner religiosity of people in that crowd. That's where it's playing from. And then ultimately the end goal is basically give us your money. So there was this other Freudian slip that happened at this event where Erica Kirk, she was honoring a student, and she was saying she reminded him of Charlie Kirk. And then she goes, oh, you also, you have, just like Charlie did, you have such a great grift. You're an incredible grifter. And then she catches, what she was saying. And it was this very cringy moment, but in a way, the truth slipped through as to what this movement here is all about. Watch this.
Despite the devastating loss of Charlie Kirk, my incredible husband at UVU, Caleb has persisted with the same gift. Grit. It has been a long day. Trust me, you're not a grifter, honey. It's all good.
Trust me, you're not a grifter, honey. Trust me, I'm the. Trust me, you're not a grifter.
There, Ben,
not a grifter, baby boy. What are we watching?
Yeah, exactly. And who sees Erica up there and is like, what the country needs is more of this. Is CBS's Barry Weiss, and I know you wanted to talk about that segment, Ben, the 60-minute segment over there. Oh boy, where do you want to start there?
I guess we'll start with Barry Weiss at CBS, and we're wanting to prop up people like Erica Kirk. What was it, a week ago, 2 weeks ago? Mm-hmm. They promoted the Erica Kirk event like it was their Super Bowl, right? And more people watch MeidasTouch videos every day by far than watch that. And that was like their biggest event. And it was just really weird too. Like Erica Kirk couldn't even answer any question. Like there was the one good question, which was like, will you condemn Donald Trump's political violence as well? And then she gave a bunch of word salad. We showed that clip before. But CBS has the rights to 60 Minutes, the revered award-winning show. We all grew up with 60 Minutes. It's CBS in general was the gold standard of news, right? I mean, there was NBC and ABC, but CBS, to me, when you would say which one has this history of straight news that was always, just kind of cutting edge, you would say CBS, and you would say 60 Minutes. Like that was it. And so we all know that Donald Trump sued CBS and Paramount over former Vice President Kamala Harris doing an interview with 60 Minutes, and that Donald Trump didn't like the way a segment was edited, so he sued for bajillions of dollars. And then CBS, one of these billionaire heirs who used to own Paramount, wanted to sell the company to another billionaire heir, to Skydance. And so CBS settled the Trump lawsuit. They then got FCC approval of the merger of Paramount CBS, which sold to Skydance. And then they installed Barry Weiss as their new head. And Barry Weiss has been turning it into like even like a weirder version of Fox, like boring Fox. Like Fox is obviously state regime media, but they're so clownish and cartoonishly villainous that you could be like, I guess that's entertaining in like a disgusting way, but like you have to call out the propaganda. Like Barry Weiss has turned CBS into like the most boring version of state regime. It's all horrific. Let me be very clear. So that I guess that's their lane, Fox, but more boring. And so CBS was supposed to air this segment, you all know, about the conditions of CCOT, the terrorist detention center, which is like a concentration camp in El Salvador. The Trump regime sent Venezuelan migrants to CCOT, where they were physically tortured, sexually abused, like suffocated, like experiencing like the worst of worst conditions there. And it was an expose on that. CBS and 60 Minutes, their editorial teams that still care and try to do the good work despite all the headwinds, they reached out to the Trump regime. Hey, you want to comment? You want to be involved in this? Ignored. Went through 5 levels of review. 60 Minutes, very diligent, right? Get this long history. Trump regime doesn't respond. They advertise that they're about to air it. And then like 2 or 3 hours before it goes on TV, it gets pulled, it gets canceled. And it turns out Barry Weiss canceled it because she was worried about the Trump regime criticism. And the way Barry Weiss tried to say, it was actually, we wanted to get Stephen Miller's voice in there. We call them migrants. Maybe we shouldn't call the people migrants. And maybe we needed more of the Trump regime side in it. And, we have to go through it some more edits. And then all the people who actually worked on this inside 60 Minutes, the people who still care about journalism, was like, this thing's been ready to go. It's been vetted at every level. One of the reporters who was on this segment, she issued a statement saying this is absolutely crazy at this point. And, it intrigues me, is probably not the right word, but it's fascinating. Barry Weiss, her career after New York Times, right, took off on Substack. And she parlayed that ultimately into then taking over this revered CBS and destroying it. Right? Like she actually was cutting edge being on Substack. But it's wild that she then did that, then took over Legacy, kind of trashed her own Substack, in my opinion, to then ultimately destroy a legacy property. And now it's dead. It's got zero credibility. Right? It's an arm of the Trump regime, in my opinion, and the opinion of most people. It's like you can't trust anything they're saying. And so it's sad because I like 60 Minutes. I like their reporting. There's a place for that really good reporting right now, in addition to independent news like Meidas. They're trash now. Trash.
Yeah, it's really upsetting. And, once you make moves like this, it really taints everything else that the network does going forward. And then you're always wondering in the back of your head if something was said to them, if they're doing something to try to protect the Trump administration. And here that's seems to be exactly what they're doing by pulling this episode the way they pulled it. It's just so unusual, but in the Trump world, I guess it is kind of typical at this point. We've seen all of these legacy stations capitulate. We've seen it with ABC, we've seen it with CBS, and it just keeps happening over and over and over. Nobody wants to stand up to these people, and we see Trump kind of continuously issuing these sorts of threats, especially as there's this pending deal right now with Paramount and trying to buy Warner Brothers Discovery, and you see Donald Trump making comments on social media saying, "Oh, I thought I liked those new owners of Paramount, but I guess not. I guess that they're actually my enemies." He's making all these statements in order to try to threaten people because they know that ultimately none of the agencies in the Trump regime are actually independent the way they were supposed to be. We saw Brendan Carr of the FCC say that out loud, that he does not view the FCC to be an independent agency just days ago. And so they know that they're going to need Donald Trump's sign off in order to do any sort of business moves they want to make more money, to do these mergers, to acquire companies. And so, when you have somebody running the company who's like a Trump friendly voice, you then have somebody making decisions that's in the best interests of them trying to get done what the executives of the company want to get done. And I think that's what we're seeing in this situation. I think it's no surprise that the topic of this segment that was axed by Barry Bari Weiss was about CCOT, was about the cruel and unusual and inhumane treatment of the migrants at these torture facilities that they have in El Salvador. And I think it's very telling of the direction that the network is going. I think a lot of people sounded the alarm when Bari Weiss took over, saying that this is not going to be good. I think a lot of people were like, oh, what do you have to worry about here? What do you have to worry about here? I think the same thing happened when Elon Musk took over Twitter. Back in the day, a lot of people said, oh, what do you have to worry? It's going to be the same. No, these people are taking over these companies and they're being put in these positions for a reason. They're being put in these positions so that they could control the flow of information from the oligarchs to the people and make sure that it's a regime approved content that is getting to the people, whether that's via social media or whether that is via traditional means like cable television or traditional broadcast television. And, that's why independent media, I think right now is more important than ever. That's why I always try to support all the independent creators out there, in addition to us, of course. That's why we're grateful for your support of independent media here, because the thing about independent media is we're independent. We got no one to answer to or answer for, right? And so we're going to continue to tell the truth as best we can, to track down sources as best we can, to continue to build our team. So I thank you all for your support, because frankly, right now in this moment, it matters more than ever. So, thank you to everybody on YouTube who continues to buy memberships to support us. Thank you to everybody who joins our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. That is such a huge way to help us. And we, do great work there and exclusive pieces and daily newsletters from Ron Filipkowski. So definitely check it out at MeidasPlus.com. Thanks for listening to the MeidasTouch Podcast here or on audio, and subscribing to this YouTube channel. Those are all free things right there that you could do to help support and grow this independent movement. So from the bottom of my heart, and I'm sure I'm speaking for my brothers here, thank you so much. And let's continue to build independent platforms, because frankly, as I think we saw from the numbers of what they tried to do with that Erica Kirk event that CBS did the other day, people aren't buying that crap, right? People don't want to watch that. And we have a real opportunity right now to continue to grow. And I feel like in many ways we are already, at least in the digital sphere, way bigger than they are. But I think we have so much more to go right now. And I think this is the moment where we could really make independent media the key thing that we need at this time, thanks to your help. So thank you. Are we, Jordy taking it away?
Shout out to the Meidas Mighty!
The Meidas Mighty standing strong against the fascists. We sing our song. We will get it right whenever.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.